The Dershow.
I have to tell you from a political point of view, this is playing into the hands of the Republicans. Governor Newsom is acting absolutely foolishly. The American public wants to see peace on the streets of Los Angeles. They saw what happened on the streets of Los Angeles after the Rodney King case and after other cases involving alleged police brutality, the George Floyd case. By the way, let me repeat what I have said over and over again. The worst thing that has happened to America in this century, the worst thing has been the reaction to the George Floyd killing. George Floyd was a thug and a crook and a druggie. He should never have been strangled. He should never have been killed, but he should never have been lionized and made a hero. As a result of his unfortunate death, the Black Lives Matter movement began. The Black Lives Matter movement is singularly the worst thing that's happened in America in this century. It's caused wokeness. It caused what's going on college campuses today. It caused many corporations to embrace Black Lives Matter. Black lives do matter, yes. So do white lives, so do Jewish lives, so do Muslim lives. All lives matter, and they matter equally. But the concept of Black Lives Matter, the organization, as I've said before, Eric Hoffa very aptly described what happens to causes like Black Lives Matter. Starts as a cause, all right, it's a good cause. Then it becomes a movement. Then it becomes a business. People made a lot of money. A lot of the people who were the heads of Black Lives Matter bought big homes and stole money and laundered money and did all those terrible, terrible things. And it becomes a racket. And now Black Lives Matter is a racket. It became an extortion racket. And it's caused tremendous harm to America. Some of that is happening now in the gay rights movement. I am so upset about that because I've supported gay rights in much the way I've supported Black rights. But leaders of gay rights movements now have turned anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. And, Thornburg's part of that. Thornburg says, you cannot support the environment unless you oppose Israel. What kind of nonsense is that? She loses half of her support by saying it's false. Israel has the most sensitive environmental policies of any country in the Middle East, one of the best in the world, and that's been ranked by environmental organizations. In fact, some anti-Israel people have said, they're covering up their horrors to the Palestinians by being so good on the environment, so good to gay people, so good to Black people. Remember that a very substantial number of Israelis are Black, are Black. They come from Ethiopia, and they come from other places in Africa. So African Israelis are a very important part of the population, much more than in many of the Arab countries, which have discriminated based on race and color. And so there's such hypocrisy going on. It's just absolutely amazing. So let me give you my prediction. My prediction is the lawsuits will fail. They'll work in the federal district court. You'll get, the governor of California will find a federal district judge, probably one who he was involved in appointing. And you'll get some district court judge saying, maybe even issuing an injunction, saying, the president of the United States can't do this. It'll be appealed immediately. But when the case gets to the Supreme Court of the United States, they would have no choice or little choice but to hold that the judiciary cannot interfere with the discretionary judgment of an executive head of the executive branch, the president, about the necessity for sending in troops. Governor Wallace tried the same thing when Eisenhower sent federal troops and Kennedy sent federal troops in the 1950s and the 1960s. The governors were opposed to that. And some of these cases went to court, but invariably the federal government wins these cases. And although there'll be a lot of judges saying, there's a big difference. Now the bad guys are Trump. In the old days, the good guys were Truman and Roosevelt and, Eisenhower and Kennedy. But now the bad guys are Trump and the good guys are the protesters on the street. That won't work in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will look at this institutionally and decide that institutionally the governor can't prevail over the president and certainly the president has a good faith basis, the violence in the streets. Sure, it could have been prevented by state troopers and by city police, but they didn't do it. And the presence of federal police may very well have deterred some of these thugs from coming out and burning cars. Look what happened in Minnesota. Look what happened in Oregon. Look what happened after the George Floyd killing. There were real insurrections, the burning of federal buildings, the burning of cars, and the federal government is entitled to stop that and to see that the laws be faithfully enforced, as is part of the obligation of the president under Article 2 of the Constitution.